What's up, everybody? Straw Hats Are Cool here, and we are back again with another video. It's been a little while, so I'm sorry if I kept some of y'all waiting, but we are here again with some more Market Watch. I'm hoping to do these a little bit more consistently. Life's just been a little busy, and I kind of got burnt out a little bit in OP05, so I took a little bit of a break there. But OP06 is out now. Been having a lot more fun with this format than the OP05 format personally. Still a lot of the same stuff with decks like Katakuri and Sakazuki performing very, very well, and that's going to continue to be the case for quite some time now, or at least until Sakazuki gets banned, as that will be happening on the release of OP07. But it's been a little while, so we've got a lot to talk about today in terms of the market. I hope you are looking forward to it. Before we get into today's video, if you're not already subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing if you're enjoying the content, and drop the video a like as well. It does mean a lot and helps me out. We do have a Discord. I've still been pretty active in there. Link for that will be in the description. Going to be doing some giveaways here again pretty soon, so keep your eye out for that. And if you're looking to pick up any singles that are pointed out here in this video, do consider using my TCG player affiliate link, as a small percentage of your purchase will go towards supporting me and the channel. But with that, let's go ahead and dive right into the Market Watch. Starting things off, of course, with our manga Shanks. Right now, the price is just about $2,000, a little bit over. Still very expensive card, as we would expect with Shanks. Only 12 listings right now. We haven't had a lot of sales recently, but we did have one sale on the 21st. It was a PSA 10 at 2,500, but not seeing a lot of these raw ones sell, which I think is to be expected. I think things have calmed down quite a bit now with the mangas. Kind of a couple months back when I first started doing these, things were a little crazy, but things have calmed down a little bit. So current cheapest listing is about 2,100, and that is from a they've got some sales and good feedback, but not a big seller. First verified sellers at 2,200 right now, but the raw copies aren't really selling right now. You can see someone picked up a PSA 10 for just a little bit more, and I'd feel personally, if I was going to be buying this, I'd feel a lot more comfortable buying something that was already graded as well. PSA 10 is not super hard to achieve with One Piece cards. I feel like as long as you didn't do anything intentionally to card, Bandai's been pretty good about quality control with printing. So if you get a card and send it to PSA, chances are, as long as the card has been taken care of, you're going to get a 10 on that. So not too difficult to get a 10 from PSA, a lot harder to get it from Beckett. I'm not personally into grading, so this is just kind of what I've heard. But yeah, Shanks is at 2,100. You know, holding pretty solid around that $2,000 mark from what I can remember. Ace is down to about 1,200 right now. There was a time when Shanks and Ace were pretty similar in price, but presently Ace is almost half the price of Shanks right now. Had a couple sales here. Again, this one I'm going to guess that's a graded 10. That's from Beckett. Not a black border, so had a little bit of a markup on the edges, I guess, bringing it down just to a solid silver border 10. But that one sold at 1,600, and that was almost a month ago now, the 7th of March. And before that, last sale we had was on the 8th of February. So not a lot of movement going on with the Ace. If you're looking to pick one up, I bet you could find someone maybe in a Facebook group or something willing to part with it for maybe closer to 1,000. Just so that way they don't have to deal with any of the TCG player fees or anything like that. Might be able to get yourself a deal there if you're looking to pick up an Ace. Soga King is down a little bit. Been pretty stable around the 500. There was a point though when it was getting up to about 600 or 700. I do remember, but calmed down 500, still more than it was for quite a while. Kind of a following release, it stuck around, I want to say 220 for a good chunk of time before kind of spiking up during all the buyouts and whatnot. But currently sitting at about 516. We had a sale yesterday actually for 513, and we've had some sales here and there. This one's selling a little bit more, which I think is to be expected, as it's while still a lot of money to spend on a single card, is a lot more achievable for most people, as opposed to well over $1,000 for the Ace and the Shanks. Sabo, kind of the same dealio, just a little bit less than the Soga King at $500 right now. We are still seeing some sales on this one, which doesn't surprise me at all. I think I see way too many people in events playing these as a 4-of in their deck. We've got decks like Gecko Moria right now, which are very, very strong and typically pay 4 copies of this card. Sakazuki, of course, still playing it as well. Typically reduced numbers now, maybe only 1 or 2 in most decks, but I've seen some running 3 as well. And then this is also going to be a very strong card in the Black Yellow Luffy leader, which we'll be getting here around a month, I want to say, right around the release of OP08. And that deck is proving to be quite strong even into the OP07 meta, following the bans on, well, I guess they don't have the bans yet on Sakazuki, but presumably it's going to be pretty strong in that post ban format for them. So Sabo, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if this one eventually overtakes Soga King. I feel like I've said that for a little while, but I don't know. Sabo's just a much more popular character, I think, and the card's a lot more playable. And there are people who, because this one's kind of more in the reasonable price range, are willing to pick this one up and play it in a deck. Next up, we've got Eustace Captain Kidd, which has dropped down to about $850 now. There was quite a while where this one was up at about 1,000, if not a little bit more, but kind of once the hype died down a little bit, this one started to drop in price alongside most of the other mangas in general. But it's been holding pretty steady here for the last month or so, around that $850 price point. We're having, we've had one sale this month just a couple days ago, but before that, been a little over a month, and that one was at about 900. So price is down a little bit. Again, you do have to keep in mind that these sellers aren't verified, which does deter some people from picking them up. They do have quite a few sales and pretty good feedback, so I would say these ones are probably safe because they're in line with the pricing of the other one. Really, probably the only thing you got to be worried about is it may not necessarily fit your definition of near mint. If you buy from some of these sellers, is kind of the only issue I could see coming up with them. I don't think they're trying to scam you or anything, because they are kind of within $20 or $30 of the price of verified sellers as well. Next up, we've got Law, right about the same price as Kidd right now, and I think this is appropriate. There was a period of time again where this one was substantially more than both Kidd, and I know Law's a more popular character, but I just kind of figured those two would be a little bit more similar in price, which is what we see now. Still got the market price here at about $1,000, but prices are coming down. This seller only has 2 sales, so might be a little sus with that one. This one here's got 87 sales, 100% feedback, probably legit. We can see they're selling around that $850 to $900 price point right now, which in terms of mangas, for Manga Law, I'd say that's fair right now. I think it's kind of where I expected it to fall. Manga Luffy, things have calmed down with this one quite a bit as well. Those of you who've been watching the channel for a while might remember closer to release when this hit almost $5,000 for the cheapest listing, and there were some selling well above $4,000 as well. But things have since calmed down. We're looking at $3,250 right now for this one. And that is from a Gold Star seller, so I'm sure you're safe to buy this one. Still quite a lot of money, of course, for a single card, most expensive manga in the game presently, but it is Luffy. We do expect that. We did have one sell here just a couple days ago for $3,600 though. They did have a picture with that one, not graded though, so still are selling for well over $3,000. Still very glad I was able to get my hands on this one with the help of some luck at the national championships earlier this year. We've got, I guess this is not a manga, but for our chase cards, the Oda signature Luffy. This one's actually dropped a little bit as well. It was holding pretty strong around $2,000 since OP08's release, but kind of in February, we started to see it dip in price just a little bit. Currently, we've got a listing from a Gold Star seller listed at 1,500. And then we've got one from a certified hobby shop that is about the same price as well. So I'm sure these are safe buys. And I know typically I get people commenting on my videos saying that they think that the prices between the manga and this card are wrong, but really I just think it's a demand thing. People don't care as much about this one as the manga. It's just the kind of Oda art Luffy, which you can get for about $8 right now with the stamp on it, and the coloring slightly different because of the gold, and I think it's got like a more textured background that says One Piece card game on it. Can't really tell in the picture, but I think I've seen pictures of it, and it's got like the background just says One Piece card game, and it's textured. But whereas the manga Luffy has the manga panels, and for collectors, I think those panels bring a lot more I don't know, sentimental value, I guess, for the card, whereas this is just a printed signature. I'm sure if it was actually signed by Oda, it would be a lot more sought after, but that is not the case. It's just kind of printed on there, so not the biggest deal to a lot of people. Obviously still a very rare card and a very expensive card, but I feel like it hasn't quite met some people's expectations in terms of pricing. And now with the release of OP06, we have Zoro to close out our manga category, or chase card, I guess I should say, sitting about 1,500 right now, making it the third most expensive manga card in the game presently. Makes sense, Shanks being from set 1 still makes him very difficult to get, though we should be getting a small amount of reprints for set 1. From what I can hear, some LGSs who have been supporting Bandai games will be getting a case, just one, but that is more product. I guess what's left to be determined is if those LGSs decide to actually sell those more around market price or MSRP, or what they're going for on TCG Player. So hopefully some people will be able to get their hands on some more OP01 product, but presently Zoro being the third most expensive makes a lot of sense. Again, number 2, right hand man for Luffy. I'm sure this one is also sought after by a lot of people just because it's Zoro, one of the more popular characters in the series for sure. So not at all surprised that this one is already well over $1,000, especially with how hard it's been to get OP06 product, which is a little bit unfortunate for a lot of us. Fortunately, I was able to get my case that I pre-ordered months ago at a good price, but OP06 definitely seems like it's gotten harder to get product again, even than OP05, or at least that's what it feels like to me. Let me know what your thoughts on that are down in the comments section below. But that's it for our manga section. Gonna go ahead and jump into our OP01 cards. Gonna try and move a little bit faster since got a lot to cover and I already spent a lot of time talking about those manga cards. So for our leader cards for OP01, from where we left off, not a whole lot has changed. I think laws dropped down a little bit, but other than that, things are kind of more or less where they have been. Maybe Luffy's gone up a little bit more. He and Zoro are very, very close in price now. Luffy, obviously, just because it's Luffy, not because it's playable. Zoro isn't even all that playable right now either. Some people are still seeing some success with some unique variants of the deck in the OP06 format, but definitely not the threat that it once was, kind of in those OP02, 3, 4 formats. And then Law, not seeing any play right now either, but still one of the more popular characters, and I think one of the more fun leaders to play in the game still, so you'll still see some people here and there messing around with this one at locals, I'm sure. Just kind of a fan favorite deck, I think, at this point. Other than that, Dofi's still a little bit expensive. The support it gets in OP07 doesn't seem like it was enough to make the deck relevant, unfortunately, so we did see this one kind of spike up closer to 300, but since then the hype died back down now that we've seen a little bit of the OP07 format, and we're seeing that this leader is not seeing a whole lot of competitive success at the time being. So that's it for our leader cards. For sealed product, we are down quite a bit. Climbing up a little bit again maybe, but we've kind of been on a steady decline since we got confirmation of the reprints coming at some point. Maybe we'll have to wait and see. I'm still not quite sure I believe it, but allegedly it's coming. And after they announced that at national championships end of January, we've seen the prices on these sealed boxes go down. But if you've been holding since the beginning of the game, you're still feeling pretty good. Don't get too upset that things are dropping down in price a little bit. Obviously, I still would not advise anyone pick up a box at this price unless you're a hardcore collector and you really just want to keep one sealed. But even at that, I may try and wait for these reprints and see if you can pick up a box then if you have the chance for a little bit better price. Now, jumping into our main set card, starting off with Otama. Otama's at about $5 right now, which is down from where it was at one point. We can see up here, it got to almost $8. Is going back down in price a little bit. And if you don't have your Otamas, maybe you might want to pick these up now. We are starting to get some spoilers for OP08 leaders and cards. We did get the reveal of a Marco leader, which in all honesty looks pretty powerful. A lot of people are calling it Sakazuki 2.0. I don't think it's going to be that good or even close. I just don't think the synergies between red and blue are anywhere near as strong as the synergies between blue and black. But the effect is very strong and has a very similar vibe to the Sakazuki effect, so I can see why people might be thinking that. But Otama being one of the best 2Ks in red, just very solid effect for a very cheap cost, makes Otama, I think, one of the more desirable 2K counters for red. And if that Marco deck ends up picking up steam, which I think it will, I would imagine Otama will probably see some play in that deck, just because I would imagine we're going to get some power-based removal in that deck, since the leader effect has a minus 2000 power effect in it as well. So I expect we'll see some new power-based removal or effects that interact with power that might synergize with Otama. So if you don't have these, could be a good time to pick them up. We're seeing a lot of these OP08 uncommons hit kind of this $5 price point, and those decks aren't seeing a whole lot of success. We'll get into those cards in just a minute, but Otama, red card, very good, known to do well, expect it to continue to do well once red makes a comeback. So if you don't have these and maybe you're interested in playing Marco, I might pick these up now. Next up is Zoro. It's about $100 right now. Come down quite a bit from where it was. Again, kind of right before they announced those reprints, we started seeing some price declines in the OP01 cards. Zoro not seeing a whole lot of play right now, but Red Purple Law does use this card to a degree, though I think it may more or less get replaced in EB01 with the Kid and Killer card. Slightly higher cost, but better stats, and kind of just works a little bit better with the deck since it's a 4 cost, so you still get to play it for free. Only thing that really changes is you can't play it from hand for 3. You may still run some copies of Zoro in there as well, but I think Zoro just kind of not his time anymore. Very strong card in the beginning of the game, but at this point maybe getting power crept out a little bit. Still great art on this card. If you don't have one, could be a good time to pick it up since we are seeing a decline in price. And I mean, maybe reprints will bring it down a little bit more, but in all honesty, I don't ever see this one really going back below 100. So if you don't have one, I wouldn't feel bad about picking one up if that's something you're looking to do. Nami, this is a lightly played at 250. We got a near mint from a verified saw here at 280. So Nami is still very, very expensive. But again, following January, we kind of saw the price dip in this one a little bit as well. Kind of peaked almost $400 here February and then started coming back down. Obviously still the most expensive non-leader, non-manga card, most expensive character card alt from the set. It's Nami, waifu tax, all that good stuff, set 1 card. And this is a card that we'll probably start seeing some more play in the future as well, because with the red blue Marco leader coming, I expect we'll see some Straw Hat cards start to come back. A lot of people are hyping up the 9-cost Sanji that is part of OP06 and how it's going to synergize with that Marco leader effect. So Nami being red-blue, you can play this to search out that Sanji, which could be a pretty powerful combination. So I'm sure Nami will hold its price, if not go up a little bit more. It's a lot of money to spend on a card, but honestly, I don't see this one getting any cheaper. So if you're looking to finish out your OP01 collection, now that things have kind of what looks like petered out, could be a good time to pick this one up as well if you're trying to complete your collection. But if not, I wouldn't go out of your way just to have it. It's a lot of money to spend on a card. Obviously, this is not financial advice. You know, spend your money how you will. If you're looking to pick it up, I think this is probably a good price to do it. Momonosuke, this is a moderately played one at $3. We can see Momo's seen kind of a spike in price recently, where near mints we're looking at about $4.55 now. So Momonosuke not seeing a ton of play right now. As far as I'm aware, there are some green yellow Yamato decks which are choosing to run this and run a more Wano heavy variant. I feel like there's a lot of different variants. You've got the kind of more Wally variant, aggressive variants, and then I don't know, almost more of a kind of like mid-game focused build that runs the Momonosuke, both the Searcher and the 5-cost blocker from set 6, as well as just some other Wano base cards to kind of play a little bit slower than a lot of the other builds, but not as slow as the Fortress build. So Yamato's just got a lot of builds. This is seeing play in some of them. I'm not sure if this card sees a lot of play in OP07. I feel like the price might be a little high right now, but obviously a good time to go through your bulk and maybe pick out some of these cards to sell. I just went through my bulk, picked out a whole bunch of X-Drakes and Izos, which is a where is Izo? I know it's on it. I guess I forgot to pull up Izo. So we'll go ahead and pull up Izo real quick. X-Drake and Izo, just sold a whole bunch of those myself, as they're both around somewhere $3 to $5 range. Izo's at about $4.30 right now. I think I sold mine for about that price. So I hadn't gone through my bulk yet. I think I had around 30 of these and maybe like 20 X-Drakes. So just went through, sold those, mailed a bunch of those out earlier this week. If you haven't done so yourself, I would encourage you to go through your OP01 bulk if you've got it. I think now's a good time to sell these cards. X-Drake I could actually see going up a little bit more though, as I do think it sees play in some of the Bonnie decks, which are doing pretty well. And as of right now, I think that we're seeing a price increase because it's relevant in Perona, though Perona has not been producing the best results yet, so we'll have to wait and see where things go. We're still, of course, very early in the OP6 format for us, though I guess things will get shaken up with EB01 pretty quick. Your 8-drop kids at $33 right now. Honestly, I don't think you need this card unless you're planning to play Uta and EB01. We may see this card go up a little bit then, but other than that, I'd probably stay away from this card right now because it's not really seeing any play in decks that are successful in OP07. None of the Bonnie builds are running this one. They kind of just max out on their 10-drop Doflamingo and things like that as their top-end card of choice. Seems like this would fit the deck, but the decks that have been seeing success from what I can see have not been running this, so I don't think you need to go out of your way to get kids if you don't have them. $33 for an SR is a lot. Hopefully once we get our kind of best of reprint collection in November, things come down a little bit. Same thing for the alternate art, unless you're really trying to complete your collection. Wouldn't go out of your way for this one. Maybe if you're trying to complete your collection, you could pick this one up now since it is coming down a little bit, but honestly, I would just stay away from this card unless you're maybe playing to play Uta EB01, as that deck did have a pretty successful run during that format, usually running 4 copies of this card, so could be something to consider if you want to play Uta, but other than that, don't think you need it. 3-cost Doflamingo with potentially blue coming back a little bit with Marco could be a good card. Not really seeing any play right now except for in some very fringe case queen decks that people like myself might try and play. But other than that, blue's not playing this card right now, so still a little bit expensive. Again, maybe one you might want to go through your bulk and see if you've got some extra copies of, make a little bit of money back that way. And then last card I've got for OP01 is King. King saw a little bit of a price increase once we got the reveal of the Black Purple King leader coming to OP08. Honestly, I think that leader looks pretty good, but I don't think this is a card that's going to be played in it. Having a -2 cost tied to your leader effect is already a little bit expensive, and while this effect is going to synergize very well with what Black does, I think an additional -2 in it, kind of like on top of that, is just going to be a pretty big price to pay. You know, going -2 to reduce the cost of something and then -2 to use the effect, I think it just puts you too far behind, and that's not really worth playing this card for. I think there are better cards that you could play with it. Even things like the 4-cost drop Lucci hits a 2 and a 1 instead of a 3 and a 2. Slightly smaller body, but much better cost, and you don't have to do the Don minus. So honestly, I think this card is just not relevant. Definitely would not pick this one up right now. I'm sure it will drop back down in price before you know, OP08 releases, or once it's released and people realize it's not good in the deck, it'll come back down. Really, the only draw into this is that it's going to be searchable, as we do get some new Animal Kingdom Pirate searchers in OP07 as well as OP08. That's it for OP01. Let's jump into OP02, starting things off with their leaders. Again, not really anything worth talking about here, I don't think. For a while, we start to see some of these leaders kind of just jump up in price pretty significantly, but things have definitely calmed down quite a bit now. Newgate being your most expensive, but kind of fallen from his reign of supreme, so kind of down from where he was around $200 to about $120 now. If you don't have a copy of Newgate, might be a good time to pick it up, though it doesn't look like we're going to be getting any new support for this in OP08, because the new Whitebeard Pirate support looks to be blue this time around. So still synergizes with the new Marco leader, but not going to synergize well with older Whitebeard Pirates leaders like Ace and Whitebeard himself. So just something to keep in mind. But if you're looking to pick up a Whitebeard, price is down quite a bit, so if you don't have one and want to fill out your collection, I might pick one up now. For your sealed product, this one dropped down and is since climbing back up. So again, I'm not really the sealed product guy. I don't really care too much about this stuff, but obviously prices are more or less where they were before they announced the reprints on this one. They dropped back down, but now they're coming back up. So maybe if you snagged one on the dip, you're feeling pretty good right now. But as a whole, still very expensive for your sealed product here. Wouldn't recommend buying it. Obviously, with the announcement of Marco, most, if not all, of your Whitebeard Pirates type characters from OP02 have gone up in price. Includes your alternate art Marco, both your Ace, SR, and alternate art, as well as the Newgate SR and alternate art. Definitely think Ace and Newgate are going to see a lot of play in the deck, and honestly, wouldn't be surprised if Marco does either. I'm not saying that these price increases are warranted or needed or going to last, but I definitely think these are all cards that could very easily be played and very good in the blue red Marco leader. We've got the reveal that there's an Ace character that can play a 4-cost from the top of your deck. With the Marco leader effect, you could set this up on the top of your deck, play it out off that. Feels pretty good. Sticky blocker, especially if since Blue Black Sakazuki is getting banned, we might see less bottom deck removal, which makes this card just inherently better, since the main way of removal is going to be KO effects, and he gets to protect himself from that just by trashing a single card. Ace, just a really good card, especially when you can get brush effect as having Whitebeard Pirates as part of your leader. Definitely think this is going to be played in Marco. Wish I would have picked up a couple copies of the alt when they were kind of down to about 50 before they shot back up, but it is what it is. I missed out. Oh well. And then Newgate, I think this is the one people are most excited about. On 10 Dawn, you'll be able to stack this on top of your deck. with the Marco's leader effect for the cost of putting 1 Don on the leader, and then playing it off the top alongside your 9-cost Sanji, developing 2 large bodies, as well as giving you that on-play effect to give you that additional 2000 power until the start of your next turn. Obviously, on paper, sounds really good. We don't have the cards yet. We'll have to see how things pan out once OP08 releases over in the East. But for the time being, hopefully you already had your Whitebeard Pirates card, but I wouldn't be surprised if these ones maybe even continue to go up a little bit in price, just because I think that the Marco leader is going to perform pretty well once OP08 releases. One thing to keep in mind, though, is that we are getting those starter deck reprint things, and Newgate is one of them, so we could see maybe cards like Ace and Marco get a reprint in that, which for our newer players especially would be a great way to get your hands on some of these cards. Don't know what cards are going to be in that yet, but kind of got my fingers crossed that it's going to give newer players access to some of these more expensive cards for a reasonable price, and just kind of give them a pretty solid deck to get them started. Next up, we got Nami. Nami's come down quite a bit in price. Again, I wouldn't go out of your way to get this one unless you're really planning to play Uta, mono green Uta in EB01, as it does get another searchable 2k counter in Sanji, as well as a cheap blocker that could be played off of like your Eustace Captain Kidd, that is also searchable. So those 2 cards, and just kind of from what we know happened in the East, the deck's pretty good. I think it even won their equivalent of the national championships over there. So definitely a good deck, and if you want to play it, you're going to want to have these. But if not, I would stay away from this card, as it kind of looks like it falls off pretty hard in OP07. Same thing with the alt. It's about $56 right now, which is quite a bit lower than it was. So if you don't have it, might pick it up. It's Nami. Probably not getting much cheaper than this if I had to guess, so I wouldn't go out of your way to get it. But if you don't have it, probably a fine time to pick it up, as it's gonna, I would imagine, jump up a little bit in price once we get EB01, because I'm sure there are some people who are going to be excited to play that deck. Same thing with the Luffy. Wouldn't go out of your way for this one unless you really want to play the Uta deck. Everything I said for the Nami card applies here. Kuzan, we're seeing a little bit of a price increase on your regular SR Kuzan, which doesn't surprise me all that much, as I do feel like it's seeing more play now. Still seeing play in Sakazuki, of course, but also seeing quite a bit of play in your Gecko Moria decks. Sakazuki gets banned, though, kind of on the release of OP07 for us, so might see this one come back down a little bit. Still going to see play in Moria, but I don't know how relevant Moria is right now. Apologize. Throat's getting a little dry there. Could still see play in the Lucci deck in OP07, but I think that deck is primarily CP focused. Haven't looked too much at deck list yet, though, so not going to give too much of an input on that one. But obviously still a very good card, replaces itself, and just kind of makes your removal effects a lot more powerful. Same thing with the alt. We're starting to see its price jump back up a little bit again. Still a very black dominant format. Like I said, Sakazuki, Gecko Moria kind of leading the pack right now. I think Gecko Moria is actually proving to be more successful than a lot of people were thinking. Definitely rivaling the Sakazuki, and I think even seeing some maybe slightly different builds than what we saw in the East, which is a little bit exciting, though. I still think the game would be a lot more fun if we got kind of a synchronized release schedule, so that we got to mess around with new stuff the same time as the East. But oh well. Porcelino also kind of went back up. We're seeing this one go down in price because it was actually falling out of favor in a lot of the decks over in the East, kind of EB01 into OP07 format. But with the banning of Sakazuki, I think this card just gets better. It really sucks when you play this card and it just got sent to the bottom of the deck, as that bypasses its immunity to KO effects. But with Sakazuki gone, those blue removal effects are going to be a lot less prevalent. Still going to obviously see them in decks like the mono blue bow Hancock, which has been doing pretty well. But with Sakazuki gone, this card is a lot more relevant again, and I think that is why we're seeing a bit of a price increase again, back up to $50 for a regular SR. Still baffles me, but hopefully you already had your copies of this card. If not, I doubt they're going to get much cheaper than this, unfortunately. Hopefully we'll get some form of reprint soon. Next up, just the alternate art. Kind of everything I said on the last one applies, but we're actually seeing a price dip on this one a little bit. So if you don't have Borsalinos and you've been wanting to pick some up, honestly, I might jump on it now. I mean, we're just a little bit below $100 right now, but I could definitely see this one getting back up to the $120, $130 price range. So just something to keep in mind there. And last card I want to bring up is Suru. It's an uncommon. It's $2 right now. Obviously still going to be seeing a lot of play in black decks to come. Still good in Gecko Moria, still good in Lucci. It's kind of like your Otama for black, and just that it's a 1-cost 2k counter with an on-play effect that kind of enhances the power of some of your removal effects, bringing them in range of those effects. So obviously just a very good card. I could see this going up more, but again, if you haven't gone through your bulk for OP02, might be a good time to make a little bit of money back there. Next up, we got OP03. Your leaders are more or less the same. Nami's actually dropped down a little bit. Last I remember, this one was up over 200, almost the same price as Katakuri. But the price on Nami's dropped a little bit, and Katakuri's been pretty stable at that $200 price point. Katakuri is still a very, very powerful deck in the OP06 format, and will continue to be so in the EB01 format as well. I think it falls off pretty hard in the OP07 format. Not too sure what decks kind of can answer it well then, but I know for the time being that it's very good. It's pretty good in EB01, getting a new 2k counter in that set, but looks like it falls off in OP07, so might not be a good time to invest if you're looking to play it long term. But in all honesty, I don't really see the price of Katakuri fluctuating too much. Katakuri, I feel like, is a weirdly popular character, and the deck is just good. I think a lot of newer players will lean towards playing a deck like Katakuri, just because the luck aspect makes it a little more achievable for newer players to get wins, just kind of by sacking out of life, which I think is a draw for some. Personally, I think if you're new to the game, I wouldn't recommend playing yellow, because I think it's best that you learn not to use kind of those luck factors as a crutch and really learn the mechanics of the game first. But, you know, very generic leader, very good. So if you want to start off with Katakuri, I don't really think there's anything wrong with that. Next up, your OP03 sealed. This one's actually been slowly going up. From what I heard from my LGS, they are getting a case of 01 and 02, as well as starter decks 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6. They're getting some more of that. They're shipped to them at some point. I think I want to say June or July is the plan. But OP03 is now part of that. Not sure if and or when we'll be getting reprints for this one. The announcement they made at Nationals sounded like we'd be getting reprints of everything, but we'll just have to wait and see. But for the time being, this one is just continuing to climb in price. So if you've been holding on to your sealed OP03, probably continuing to feel pretty good, kind of just a slowly increasing your investment over time. Of course, again, like I said, for all of those red Whitebeard Pirates cards in OP02, everything applies for the 5-cost Marco and his alternate art from OP03. I think this one's going to be especially good because with inherent power reduction built into the Marco's leader effect, I think this makes this card a natural fit for it. We'll have to see if we get any new good events that make it worth playing. But one thing to keep in mind is being a red-blue leader means you do have access to events like 3000 Worlds and Gum Gum Red Rock, which, because you're red-blue, means they're searchable off Nami. And the effect here does not specify a red event. So any event in hand can be trash for this effect. So if you've got, maybe you're playing that Marco deck and you've playing some copies of the cards and they're bricking you up, try to KO your Marco, you get to save it by discarding one of those dead cards in your hand. Could be pretty good. But I'm curious to see if we end up getting more kind of more Whitebeard pirate focused events for the deck as well in blue. Kaya's a rare. It's about $5 right now. Kind of, I don't want to say it's the same as like your Otama or Suru for blue, but kind of similar. Then it's a 1 cost, 0 power, 2k counter. Blue doesn't really have any, like their main way of removal is bouncing, but they don't have cost reduction, so no cost reduction there. But this is just a filter, very good. I'm playing this in my Reiju deck, which has been my favorite deck for the current format as of right now. Very, very good. You don't want to play it, but sometimes you've got an awkward hand. Doesn't hurt to drop this one down to dig you a couple cards deeper, especially in a deck like Reiju, where you want to be trashing certain cards to get full value out of some of your effects. So obviously just very good. I think Reiju's been a pretty popular deck from what I can tell. I'm not sure this is being played in any other deck right now, but if you don't have your Kayas, you can pick them up in your tournament packs. There's 1 in 4 chance you get it from your tournament pack right now with a different art. I believe that one's also sitting around the same price point as this one right now. Not foiled, but I do think the art's a little bit better on that one. And you could even pick yourself up a winner copy if you manage to win your local tournament. So if you're not already attending local events, be sure to check out the Bandai TCG Plus and see if there are any stores in your area running events. See if you can maybe pick yourself up some of the Kayas just for participating if you don't have them already. If you don't, you're looking about $4 or $5 right now after shipping. So this is one I'd say if you've got a lot of OP03 bulk, I might be time to go through that, pick some of these out and list them up on TCG Player, make yourself a little bit of money. Pudding's at about $53 right now. All of these Big Mom yellow SRs and alts I'm gonna group into one category. Obviously most of them are still pretty good. Parosparrow still seeing a lot of play in your Katakuri decks. Cracker's seeing less play right now, but you do still see it popping up in some Yamato builds as well as some Katakuri builds, but I think this one's fallen out of favor just a little bit. And then of course your Charlotte Linlin, still kind of the backbone of those yellow Big Mom Pirate Leader decks. But the alt is rather cheap. We do have the SP now, which has much better art than this one. Personally, I still kind of like the terrifying art on this one. Think it's kind of fitting for just how pulverizing the effect on this card is. But I can understand why you might not be a fan of this one and would be willing to opt for the SP despite the pretty big price difference there. So we still not yet gotten 2 of the leaders from OP08 revealed yet. Allegedly one of them is going to be Pudding, and allegedly it's going to be yellow purple. We'll have to wait and see. Leaks from a couple months ago did indicate that we'd be getting a yellow purple Big Mom Pirates type leader, and if that is the case, I think we could see specifically Pudding and your 10 cost Big Mom, the Pudding alternate art, and your 10 cost Big Mom, as well as maybe Parosparrow going up just a little bit. I think if yellow or if the Big Mom Pirate stuff gets access to some form of consistent ramp into your 10 cost, it could be pretty disgusting, but we'll have to wait and see what ends up happening. I think earlier today the leaker did say that one of their suspected characters was no longer going to be accurate. There was also supposed to be a yellow Nami leader, but today they came out and said that while we don't have those 2 leaders revealed yet, it's not going to be Nami. So I got my fingers crossed that we get a Rayleigh leader, since Rayleigh's on the pack art for OP08. But moral of the story is I could definitely see the yellow stuff shooting up in price here in the next couple days if we get a yellow purple Big Mom Pirates type leader revealed. I expect that the support for that deck will be in purple, similar how the support for Marco is in blue this time around as opposed to red, but your pudding's still going to be able to search those cards as it is not color restricted. Katakuri, I guess I should have brought this one up a little bit as well. This is not seeing play all that much right now. The only deck that I think is really playing this right now is Queen, and that deck's not really seeing any success. And there are some Katakuri decks that are playing this, and of course NL's playing this, but NL is not seeing a lot of success right now, though EB01 and on, NL definitely gets a lot more powerful. So if you're planning to play NL, is what I'm getting at. If you're planning to play NL, EB01 and on, and you don't have your C rare Katakuris, now is 100% time to do it. We are getting that reprint starter deck, and Katakuri is one of them. There's a small chance they reprint this and that, which could be a big help for some people just getting into the game, but I wouldn't bet on it. So if you're planning to play NL and you're a newer player, you don't have your Katakuris, $60 is a pretty big price tag still for a secret rare, but you need it for the deck. The deck is going to be good into OP07. Get some more support there. If you want to play NL, I would definitely pick these up now. Pardon me while I get another drink of water. Last thing I want to talk about for OP03 is some of your CP characters, specifically your Spandam, Khalifa, Ult, Kaku, and his respective alternate art. With the banning of Sakazuki, it has given the OP07 Lucci leader a little bit more room to shine, as their effects are very similar. But of course, the Lucci being mono black and CP type gives them access to some different tools. But with Sakazuki leaving the format, has definitely left, kind of left that spot just to Lucci on his own, which makes these cards a lot more relevant. Spandam being your searcher for the deck, as well as Khalifa just being a very solid 2k counter, and Kaku just having a really solid removal effect on a body that has counter. Very, very good. Could certainly see these ones going up a little bit more in price as we get closer to the release of OP07. But if you're not planning to play Lucci, I don't think you need to worry about these cards at all. Though maybe if you're trying to make a little bit of an investment and kind of a call on the market, you could start picking up some copies of this Kaku while they're cheap. Wouldn't recommend it, but it is something you could try and do. That's it for OP03. Let's jump on into OP04. Leader cards, again, the leader cards in this set are pretty boring, not a lot to talk about here. Isha's under $20 again. A little bit sad, honestly, just how cheap a lot of these leaders are relative to kind of like your OP01, 2, 3 leaders. Even OP05, though, once we get to that, we'll see that the prices on most of those OP05 leaders have dropped pretty significantly as well, which is a bit interesting. For your main set stuff, we did start seeing it climb up in price towards the end of January. Dipped down a little bit after they confirmed those reprints, but since then it started climbing back up again. Still, I want to say this is the cheapest sealed product you can pick up right now, which is a little disappointing because it's still well above MSRP, but it is what it is. First card I've got here is Pell. Pell saw a little bit of a buyout after they revealed the Marco leader earlier this week, having a when attacking power-based removal effect. Maybe some people speculating this could be good in it. I'm not sold on it because it doesn't have counter. It doesn't have any immediate impact when you play it, which means it needs to live a turn, which in a format with all the removal that there is can be a pretty big ask. So definitely don't think you need this card or that it's going to be good, but just thought I'd point out that it did see a little bit of a price spike. Your SP Newgate, obviously alongside the other Whitebeard Pirate stuff and the regular alt Newgate, this one's seen a price increase as well for all the reasons I said just about Marco So everything I said about those other Whitebeard Pirates cards applies here. So it is up again from about 36, almost doubled in price, to 64 right now at the time of this recording. We've got our 10 cost Doflamingo right now. Your regular SR is about almost $6 now, which is up quite a bit from where it was upon release. And remember, most of your OP04 SRs were very, very cheap to start, most of them under $1. But this one's been climbing up, and I think it will continue to climb up, as this one is very, very good in the Bonnie decks. Might seem a little bit counterintuitive being a 10 cost and you wanting to leave one up for that Bonnie effect, but there are effects on characters that allow you to untap a Dawn at the end of your turn, which still gives you access to that effect on top of the very powerful block effect that Doflamingo provides. So kind of makes it the boss monster of choice for that deck. If you're looking to play Bonnie and don't have these, you might want to pick them up now. I think they did say that this card specifically in the reprint set is getting a reprint. I imagine most SRs that are played will. So hopefully we can see someone like Borsellino and whatnot too. But I don't think we're getting that till I want to say November. So if you're looking to play Bonnie in June or July, whenever OP07 comes out, definitely want to have those before then. Everything I said for the regular art applies to the alternate art, though we are seeing a dip in the alternate art. So if you're looking to bling out your deck or haven't picked up a copy of this card, I would say it's probably a good time to do it, because it will be seeing more play come OP07. I think Bonnie's going to be a pretty popular leader. So I definitely would recommend picking this one up now if you don't have it and it's something you're looking to pick up. Your Secret Rare Corazon, this one saw a pretty big price spike very early once OP07 released over in the East, but since then it's kind of dropped back down pretty hard. Again, this is $5 with $2 shipping, so $7 for that one. Most of your listings are right around that $8 price point. Not a lot of verified listings though, which is interesting. About the same price still, but a lot of newer sellers trying to sell this one. But this card is actually still seeing quite a bit of play in the Bonnie decks as another top end card. So reason for this might be that alongside the Doflamingo, you're going to play your Baby 5 Searcher. Both these cards are searchable off that, which adds a level of consistency. And with the addition of several new very powerful 5-cost characters in EB01 as well as OP07, makes the effect on this card a lot more viable. I think it really synergizes well with the Cavendish from EB01, which is a supernova. And most of the list I've been seeing are a split between Don Quixote and supernova, so you're running your Bonnie and Baby 5 Searcher. And the combo that these two brings is that essentially you get to play Cavendish off this for free, who's a 5-cost 6,000 power character. And then on play, if you don't have another Cavendish on board, he unrest 2 Dawn, which essentially means you're getting an 8k body and a 6k body from your hand for 6 Dawn. And then that Cavendish also restands 2 Dawn when attacking, so long as you only have 1 on board. So I think that card really synergizes with this and just kind of what the Bonnie deck's trying to do. So could be a good time to pick up the Corazons if you're looking to play Bonnie with the Corazon. I know there are some builds that aren't running it, but quite a few of the successful builds that I've taken a look at are running this card. Alternate art, it's up a little bit, but really more or less the same. After the initial hype, things have kind of dropped back down a little bit. Next up is Crocodile. This card's super cheap, but I'm only bringing it up because it did win a couple flagships over in the East, either EB01 or OP07 format. It does get some new tools, EB01, but not really enough to make it super relevant. But I could see this one jumping up a little bit in price once we get closer to the release of EB01. Probably not worth mentioning, but just something I thought I'd point out. Really, if we're going to see a price spike in anything, it's going to be the alt. We saw a price spike in it once some of those EB01 cards started to get revealed. But Since then, it's dropped back down in price, but if you don't have them and you want them, maybe pick them up now, because I could see them going up again once EB01 releases here in the West. And then your yellow stuff from OP04, kind of going to group that all together as well. Capone, best 2K counter in yellow in my opinion. You don't play it in Yamato. Yamato, you're really just trying to be super aggressive, but I would still argue it's the best 2K counter in yellow. Sanji, very good, just kind of trigger body, blocker, can save you the game. Same thing with the alternate art. And then, where did Yamato? Oh, there's Yamato. Yamato, very just good card in NL as well. If you don't have some of these cards and you're planning to play NL, I think now is probably the time to do it. Yamato's at its low for quite some time. Sanji's on a dip as well. And then Capone, more or less the same, but if you're looking to play NL and you want to bling out your decks, or even if you just don't have your copies of Sanji or Yamato regular, 100% would pick these up now. NL is looking to be one of, if not the best decks following the Sakazuki ban post OP07. So with the addition of that 10 cost yellow ace, kind of in conjunction with the NL leader effect in this Yamato, definitely looking to be one of the more powerful leaders in the game, and one that some people might already be comfortable with if they played it in OP05. So if you're new, want to play NL, pick these up, or maybe you're even a veteran player who sold some of these cards off after the OP05 format, might be a good time to buy back into these cards. And last card for OP04 I've got here is Sabo. Kind of already talked about it with the manga a little bit, but I'll recap just because I know not a lot of people are buying the mangas to play them in their deck. There are some of you out there, but most of you are going to be buying your either regular arts or alternate arts if you're looking to be a little bit fancy with it. Alternate art's climbing a little bit, whereas your regular art is climbing quite a bit. Makes sense to me. 4 of in Gecko Moria, and it's going to be a 4 of in the upcoming Black Yellow Luffy leader, which kind of I want to say alongside NL. Those two are looking, I want to say NL, Red Purple Law, and the Black Yellow Luffy in the post Sakazuki OP07 format are looking to be 3 of the best decks for that format. Sabo's, it's an absolute 4 of in that Luffy deck, kind of the backbone of what the whole deck's trying to do. So if you're looking forward to playing that deck and picking up that starter deck when it releases, I would pick this up now. Honestly, if you're able to pick up the starter decks, that Black Yellow Luffy deck I think is going to be a pretty cheap deck for most people to pick up if you've got your Sabos. Most expensive card in it is probably going to be the Gecko Moria, which is about $15-16 right now. But I would pick these up now before they continue to climb even more. Not honestly a lot to talk about with OP05. Obviously Sakazuki leader tanked pretty hard alongside Luffy. Sakazuki getting banned, whereas Luffy just fallen out of favor a little bit. Though I will say with Luffy, I might pick this up now. I've been seeing some people see some success with Luffy in OP07, and it's a Luffy leader, so I think it just has some inherent value there. And then NL, kind of on the dip right now, but if you're looking to play NL and you want your alt art leader, I think now might be a good time to do it, because NL is looking to be a pretty promising leader for that OP07 format, like I've been saying. Sealed boxes of OP05 still very expensive. These ones have kind of been all over the place, more or less stagnant at about that $250 to $300 range is where they've been sitting. So hopefully we get, I think they did say we're definitely getting reprints of 5, 6, and 7, maybe 8 as well, even though those sets aren't even out yet. They know the allocations were bad, so they're trying to get more out there. Baby 5 kind of had its ups and downs here, but I think it's going to continue to go up from here on out as we get closer to OP07 releasing. I know we just recently got OP06, but some people are already looking ahead to OP07. And like I said, that bonding deck running the Supernova Don Quixote package If you're someone who's looking to bling out your deck, top level player, just trying to flex a little bit, definitely going to want your baby 5s if you're planning to play Bonnie. Eustace Captain Kidd, I think this is a good buy right now at only about $5 if you're looking to play Red Purple Law, because that's going to be a 4 of in the Red Purple Law deck. And I would argue, like I said, I think NL, Red Purple Law, Black Yellow Luffy kind of shaping up to be the top 3 decks post Sakazuki in OP07. So if you want to play Red Purple Law, definitely recommend picking these up now while they're kind of on the lower price end. Everything I just said to the regular art applies to the alternate art. If you're looking to spend a little bit more money to bling out your deck, or you just want to pick up a copy for your collection, I would do it now. You can already see prices are starting to go up a little bit. I would imagine they're only going to go up from here as we get closer to EB01 for this one, as Red Purple Law gets quite a lot better with the inclusion of the Kid and Killer card, as well as the Secret Rare Bond Clay card from that set. Rob Lucci character is pretty cheap right now. Still going to be good in that OP07 Lucci deck, as well as some Moria decks. I feel like a lot of Moria decks are really kind of cutting back on this one. Generally speaking, I think I'm seeing 2 copies for the Lucci right now. And with the lack of Sakazuki in the format, I do think the play on this one's going to dwindle a little bit until we get the release of OP07 with that new Rob Lucci leader. But if you don't have these, honestly, I think this is a good price to pick it up at. They are climbing up a little bit now, so just something you might want to keep your eye on if you don't have these. Rebecca, still a very, very good card. Pretty cheap right now. Honestly, if you don't have them, I'd pick these up. I think this is going to be a good card for some time to come now, especially when you've got cards like Gecko Moria that can pull this from the trash, and then this can pull something else from the trash. Just a very good defensive option, being a blocker as well as giving you resources from your trash. Alternate art dropped pretty hard once OP06 released. Most people who are really trying to bling out their decks are going to want the SP over this one now for that max rarity option. Though for your typical player, maybe just trying to shine up the deck a little bit, I still think this is a good option. I think this is a fair price for it. I don't know if it's going to get lower than this, but it's definitely a lot cheaper than it was at the release of OP05. So if you don't have one, I think now is a fine time to pick this one up. Rob Lucci alternate art, kind of everything I said for the regular art applies here. Might see it go up in price as we get closer to OP07 for people like myself who are getting a little bit hyped to have a little bit more CP9, CP0 decks in our lives. So other than that, I think this one's probably going to be pretty stagnant around that $50 price point. Last card for OP05 is going to be Gadatsu, who is currently at $27 for a lightly played copy. Price has been sitting right around $30. Still a very good card in yellow. Your Cotted Curry decks are playing it at 3 to 4. NL decks are probably going to be playing this at 4 once those come back as well. So just a very good card. Could see it going up as we get closer to EB01 and OP07 with more people going back to the NL deck. So if you don't have it, I think now is probably the time to do it, as I would imagine it's going to go back up in price a little bit. But that's it for OP05. For OP06, I'm going to start off with the leaders, and then we're just going to kind of look at the set as a whole since I haven't talked about this one yet. So for your 6 leaders from OP06, we've got Yamato leading the pack. Does not surprise me. While this leader is not the most meta relevant leader from this set, it is a relevant leader, and it's Yamato. And if we've learned anything about this card game in Yamato, it's that for some reason people want to spend way too much money on it, like that secret rare and alternate art from OP01, which I didn't mention in this video. They are down in price, but you don't need them, so I'm not bringing it up outside of right here. Anyways, kind of the same dealio here. People are simping for Yamato. It is a good leader. I think it's kind of like a tier 1.5 maybe, kind of a step below everything else, but still a good leader nonetheless. Reiju and Perona, kind of neck and neck right now, 120, 130. Both also playable leaders. I think Reiju is the more playable of the two, but maybe that's a little bit biased because it's my deck of choice for the format. Though I really wanted to like Corona a lot more than I do. Just kind of hasn't clicked with me. Maybe I'll have to get some more games in with it. But again, they're waifu taxed, also playable. But the fact that they are female characters just kind of gives them a little bit more value than other leaders like Gecko Moria, who no one likes Gecko Moria as a character. At least not many do. But this is a very competitively viable leader, so a lot of people are hunting this one down for that sole purpose. And then Uta and Hody kind of just get left in the dust a little bit. Uta being a little bit more for the waifu tax, but I think a lot of people are kind of just sick and tired of seeing Uta at this point. We got the promo Uta leader, we got a starter deck Uta leader, we got this Uta leader, and then apparently we're getting a reprint of the green Uta leader as our green starter deck reprint, which seems a little bit dumb in my opinion because it was already a starter deck leader. But hey, who am I to say? I guess Bandai just really likes their Uta right now, and if that's how they want to do things, so be it. Personally, not the biggest fan of this character. I'm ranting now. We're gonna move on. So this is currently where your leaders stand. Do I see them coming down? Not really for the time being. I think they're going to be pretty stagnant for where they're at. Kind of like how we saw with OP05, all those relevant leaders being Luffy, Sakazuki, and Enel stayed right around $100, if not a little more. Yamato's Yamato, so that one's going to be a little bit more than that. But other than that, I think this is about what I expected. Maybe I could see Perona maybe coming down a little bit, just because I don't think it's meeting the standard that a lot of people were hoping that it would. Sealed product right now is $220 thereabout, coming down a little bit, but kind of similar to OP05 in that despite being the new set, it is still incredibly difficult to get sealed product. Personally, I found it more difficult to get sealed product than even OP05, but let me know what your thoughts on that are down in the comment section below. I did pull up the SPs. So for your SPs, Rebecca leading the pack makes sense. Great art on this one. And it's the Rebecca character, who is arguably one of the best cards in the color black for the time being. Linlin not far behind Rebecca, which doesn't surprise me as those yellow decks are still very, very popular. Katakuri is still seeing success. And like I said, the art on this one is a whole lot better than it is on the regular art, though personally I still kind of like the terrifying ugly Big Mom art, but personal preference. And then Buggy and All Sunday right around that $70 to $80 price point, and Borsellino and Sugar on the lower end. A little bit surprised with how low Borsellino is. I know Sakazuki getting banned and all that, so it's going to be seeing a lot less play. May not be even seeing any play following the ban, but I don't know, because it's playable right now, I would expect it to be, I don't know, a bigger cut above Sugar, who's not really seeing any play right now. But maybe that's just me. So that's where SPs stand right now. If they're anything like the SPs from OP05, I don't see these ones really moving much in price. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see. I was lucky to pick up my Linlin when it was closer to 100. That's the one that jumped in price, but these have more or less been where they were at since release. Buggy dropped a little, All Sunday dropped a little, but more or less they've been pretty consistent from the prices that were up when the set released. So for your main set cards now, let's jump back to the top, starting with your more expensive stuff. The Nami, it is not one per case like a lot of people were speculating, but it is definitely a lot more common than people were also speculating. So this Nami's down to under $100. They are selling at this price point, but I think just coupled with the fact that this was a lot more common than people were anticipating, alongside the fact that a lot of people aren't a fan of this card, price is pretty low. I could see it going up a little more as time moves on, just because it is a rare card, but I don't know. I imagine it's probably going to stay right around this $100 price point. More interesting card to talk about is this Perona character, who for some reason is the most expensive character card in the set outside of Magazoro. And I'm not sure why, because this is really only played in the Gecko Moria deck. Maybe you could play it in Perona or other black decks, but really you're only playing this in Gecko Moria because you can cheat it out of your graveyard with the leader effect. And especially if you're able to get it off early, it can be very disruptive, forcing your opponent to discard a card. I've got no clue why this one's up being the most expensive card, though, even above your Gecko Moria, who is played in every deck that can play black cards for the most part. It's a 4 of in Black Yellow Luffy, it's 4 of in Gecko Moria, it's going to be a 4 of in OP07 Luffy, it's currently a 4 of in Sakazuki. But for some reason, this card is still more. Not sure why. It's even more than Nami. Nami! We've seen how Nami cards go in the past. Now, this one here is an exception because a lot of people aren't a fan of it, but come on. Why is Perona more than this Nami? I would argue that this Nami is a more playable card than the Perona. Yes, Perona is played in what you could argue is the best deck in the format, but Nami's Nami. Nami tax. Anyways, Nami's about $90. Very good card in your yellow decks, especially your Yamato deck, being able to give your leader banish in addition to the natural double attack that it has. Reiju also on the higher end for ults in this set. Makes sense as it is plays a 4 of in the Reiju deck, which, as I said, my personal deck of choice and is seeming to be fairly popular across the board. It's also a 4 of in Red Purple Law, which, as I said earlier in the video, is looking to be one of the top 3 decks for the OP07 format, maybe even the EB01 format. Definitely still, we'll still have Sakazuki for that format, but kind of once Sakazuki is gone, I think it gives the Red Purple Law deck a lot more room to shine. Already talked about the SPs. We saw a price jump on the Sanjis earlier this week after the reveal of Marco. I was fortunately able to get them before the price jumped up. I bought them earlier the day that they jumped. And I was fortunate enough that the seller I bought from still shipped it. I know that I was hearing some stories from some other not so lucky individuals who ordered their Sanjis and then the seller canceled because they did jump pretty significantly in price. Going down a little bit. I think after the initial hype they were like 80, maybe 75, but down just a little bit, but definitely still a lot worse than the like 45 I think I bought them for. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if the price holds here now, because I do think that it does have a lot of potential with that Marco leader, especially given the fact that you're able to run kind of your dual searcher package, which we've seen with many other decks. When you can run that dual searcher package efficiently, works very, very well. So I wouldn't be surprised if Sanji ends up holding its current price point here. And after that price cut or price hike, it does put it in just a cut above the Zoro alternate art character from the set, which is about $60. Sees play in green decks, is a pretty good answer to yellow, and can just outright win you games if your opponent's not able to remove it. I think we could see this card seeing more play following the bans of Sakazuki, but I think for right now, it's going to see play as maybe a 2 of in some green decks, just as a good answer, especially to yellow decks. But once Sakazuki's banned, I think that removing characters this highly cost consistency is going to get a little bit more difficult. But we'll have to wait and see. Maybe we see decks like the Boa deck kind of start coming into favor a little bit more, and they have access to cards like Red Rock, which is still an answer for this card. But we'll just have to wait and see where things go. Iori's at $60 right now. Could see this one going up even a little bit more. I'm kind of hoping it goes back down because I still would like to pick up a couple more copies of this one. It's played in Yamato. Some Katakuri decks are running it. I feel like most are opting not to. And then it's going to be played in your Black Yellow Luffy deck. So If you're planning to play Black Go Yuffie and you want to bling out your deck, this is a card you're probably going to want to pick up. So I keep your eye on the price of this one. I wish I picked them up a little closer to release, since they did go up quite a bit more than I was expecting in terms of price. Absalom, it's only played in Gecko Moria, but with Gecko Moria being one of the more viable decks in the format, Absalom about $30, pretty good value for an alternate art. Ichiji, only really played in Reiju, but again, it's one of the more popular decks in the format. I think it's just a fun deck to play, so Ichiji got some value there. Little bit surprised with Hody being $25. I personally like the art. I've heard some people say they're not the biggest fan of it, but given just how expensive like Yamato alternate art leader is, and the fact that this is like one of the best cards you can play in that deck, I'm a little surprised with how low the Hody Jones is. So definitely glad I decided to hold off on buying these ones, because they did drop. I think they were around 40 and now we're about 25 bucks. Getting on the lower end, Momonosuke, seeing a little bit of play, but not a whole lot in some of your Yamato decks. Zoro Sanji, your regular arts are also neck and neck now, following the price jump in Sanji. If you were lucky, you were able to get your Sanjis for, I want to say, $8, $9 was where they were at before the price jump. Tashigi's dropping in price because Sakazuki's getting banned, which means there's not really a place for Tashigi, because Blue Navy on its own isn't all that good without Sakazuki. Did get some cards for it, but Blue just generically has better colors. You played this to search out your black cards more often than not in your blue-black Sakazuki deck. Your Shiraya is at $20 right now, and if you're planning to play Red Purple Law, this is one I might consider picking up. It's on the cheaper end of alternate arts for this set, and with it being a really good card for Red Purple Law, I could see this one going up a little bit, as it is looking to be one of the more threatening decks of the format. Shanks, while the art looks really cool, he's just kind of here, not really relevant in any deck that's coming up or presently. Same dealio with Kami. Your Gecko Moria and Reiju SRs, both at $16 right now. Makes sense. Two of the, I just think, best cards that have been printed in their respective colors. Gecko Moria, I think, has to be the best black card that's ever been printed. And Reiju just having an effect that, while on a condition, does allow you to draw 2 cards, is very powerful. And the condition's pretty easy to meet if you're playing purple. Judge alternate art, pretty cheap. Really, this is only a 2 of in the Reiju deck, and outside of that, it's not seeing any play. Hiyori is also on the more expensive end for your SRs, $13 right now. Again, it's going to be good in NL. It's going to be played in Black Yellow Luffy. So 2 of the best decks post Sakazuki ban, in my opinion. This is going to be a 4 of, and then you can play it in Katakuri, and Yamato decks will play this as well, but I think Yamato falls off a little bit going into OP07, and by a little bit I mean kind of a lot. But Aramaki, cheapest alt in the set, makes sense. You can try Platinum and Queen, but other than that, not going to be seeing play in any deck at all whatsoever. Perona character is about $6, which is a little bit surprising just given how much the alternate art is, but hey, it is what it is. I would avoid the alternate art right now. If you need Peronas, even if you're looking to bling out your deck, it's not worth it. Just pick up your regular arts. Hody Jones about $7, and then everything else is pretty cheap. Again, even if you're just playing base rarity, I might pick up your Shirayas now, as I could see these ones jumping up a little bit in price as we get closer to EB01 and OP07, where Red Purple Law really starts to shine. But that's it for OP06. This video is running a little long, so we're going to quickly run through our promo cards, starting off with the Dawn. Some of your Straw Hat Dawn have kind of popped up in price recently. as it does appear that based on what we're seeing for upcoming events, these are no longer going to be provided as prize support anymore. Maybe if we see 3v3 start to come back, which I hope we do. Previously these were given out as prizing for 3v3 events, so maybe we could see that come back, but for the time being, there are not any upcoming events that have been announced that will be providing these as prize support. So a lot of these Straw Hat on are going up in price. Your Luffy, Sanji, Brook, Frankie, and Usopp are still on the lower end, but these 5 right here have seen a pretty big jump in price. The new Gear 5 Don is pretty expensive as well. I imagine they'll come down a little bit, but it looks like they're only being supported for this current wave of regionals, so I don't expect the price dip to be all that significant, as I imagine these are going to be pretty hard to get, especially if you're looking to get a full set of 10. So yeah, I don't know what else to say about that one, but I imagine it'll come down a little bit. I think people are just now going to be getting these cards, as the first events that gave these out happened last weekend. So we've got some more online events happening this weekend, and then we're gonna have some more in-person events happening over the course of April. Other than that, Dawn stuff looks pretty similar to where it was. Could see the gold Dawn jump up a little bit more, as this one is also no longer being supported from what we can tell. Gordon, with Red Purple Law being one of the better decks in the upcoming formats, Gordon has, to the surprise of some, actually gone up quite a bit in price. Now, the reason this is surprising to some is because we did get an effective reprint for Gordon in OP06 in the form of Rise Max, who is essentially the same character with a different name, and the addition of the Revolutionary Army typing to film. So it's film and a Revolutionary Army type. But the reason it's seeing a price increase is because those Red Purple Law decks are choosing to play for Gordon and for Rise Max, so they can run effectively 8 copies of Gordon. And being that Gordon himself never got a reprint, he was only given out in the film pack that was only giving out during the first month of the game's release. Gordon is one of the most difficult cards for newer players and really just anyone to get their hands on, because they're only giving out during that first month. So unless you're like me, who's been playing the game since the very beginning, chances are you don't have these cards in your collection. And unfortunately, if you're looking to play a deck like Red Purple Law, I think you're out of luck, and you're going to have to pick up these cards if that's a deck you're looking to play. Now, in all honesty, I could see Bandai banning Gordon, and for similar reasons to why they banned like the one Buggy Pirates dude, Kabaji. Because I think they printed Rise Max with the intention of it being a reprint for Gordon with a different name, and they may not have necessarily anticipated people running 8 copies of that card in their deck. So honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if we see something funky like that come up, but that's purely speculative, so we'll just have to wait and see. Your Law from the film pack is also expensive, still good in the Red Purple Law deck. Same thing with Gordon, everything I said there applies. But with this one, we should be getting kind of like a tournament pack version or something sometime down the line, so this one should come down in price. However, if you're looking to play Red Purple Law, once EB01 releases, you're probably out of luck, and you're gonna have to pick these up, because there is no, as far as I'm aware, there's no sign of that card coming to the West yet. But yeah, we'll just have to wait and see where things go with that. So if you're looking to play Red Purple Law, unfortunately, I do think you're out of luck. You are probably going to need you're probably going to need 4 Gordons and some number of copies of Law if you want to play that deck to its highest competitive level. And unfortunately, I don't think the prices on these are going to be coming down anytime soon. Most LGSs have gotten their Uta battle stuff now. I've got my pack right here. Just picked it up from my LGS yesterday. So if you participated in a Uta battle, you should be able to go over to your LGS, Let them know that you participated and pick up your copy of the Uta Battle cards. So following that, most of them have dropped down pretty significantly in price. So if you were lucky enough to get your hands on them before now, hopefully you decided to sell those because the price has dropped pretty considerably now. For event pack stuff, we do have the introduction of event pack 3 with this most recent iteration of regionals, which again, the first couple happened last weekend. We've got some happening this weekend. We're gonna have some more happening throughout the course of March. I know a lot of people were excited for this Zoro card, and we didn't get it before it was no longer relevant. So I think the Zoro price is very inflated right now. Definitely, you don't need to pick these up right now. It was played in some list over in the East because they didn't have Onami when they had this card. So this was a pretty good card for that. Still kind of like took your Thunderbolt slot, but had counter. But now that we've got Onami, this card is more or less irrelevant. The Yamato, doesn't see any play, but it's Yamato, so I'm sure some people just want it for that. You got the Monet and then the Law. I imagine prices on all of these are going to come down kind of towards the end of April once most of the events where these cards are being given out have concluded. That's probably going to be your time to buy these cards if that's something you're looking to do. For your winter cards, more or less winter cards have calmed down. Some of them were getting a little bit crazy. I don't remember this Nami being like $70. Same thing with Bonnie at one point. But once we got those championship cards at Nats, things calmed down a little bit. Kaya is the most expensive one right now. Makes sense to me as it's one, I think it's the only card that doesn't have another form of alternate art outside of like Fukuro maybe, but Fukuro is even getting a art in the premium Bandai binder, which will be shipping out at some point. The first anniversary binders that most of us pre-ordered in like June of last year are just now getting shipped out and arriving to people's doors. So that'll come at some point. That's got a Shirahoshi and Fukuro. I think it's like the same character art, but it's got like a textured background and all that cool stuff. Whereas Kaya, this is the only kind of max rarity alternate art form for Kaya. Your celebration pack cards more or less calmed down. Bonnie's still on the higher end. Nami's calmed down. I imagine Bonnie will stay here just because this is like your max rarity version of Bonnie. I think Izo is going to come down despite still being a relevant card because it's going to get the premium Bandai variant as well. Other than that, not a lot to speak of here. Your judge stuff, Queen is your most expensive judge card, but even Queen has dropped down quite a bit in price now that Mono Purple Luffy is no longer a relevant deck in the format. Helmeppo is up there now. This is seeing play in both Sakazuki and Gecko Moria, typically at around a 2 of, I want to say, as just a nice 2-cost target. You can pull back off your Gecko Moria, and then if you pull back something like a Rob Lucci or an Absalom, you can KO bigger, higher cost characters by playing this out alongside it with that 8-cost Gecko Moria's effect. Other than that, judge stuff is more or less cheap. Your sealed battle stuff has also come down quite a bit in price. My LGS was supposed to have another event, but it never happened, so I don't know what's going on there. But some LGS did have these events again, so there are more packs of these out there now, which is bringing down the price in most of these cards pretty considerably. Championship stuff is still very expensive, as you would expect. I think Kid is up on here now, but I don't see it in this current list. If we go to use this One Piece, yep, they do have the Kid on here now. This is one you can win from your most recent set of regionals for top 64. They've been selling it $1,100 to $1,200, so if you were lucky enough, well, I don't want to say lucky enough, but if you were able to top one of those events and do well, get this. I would say it's pretty tempting to sell it, just already being such an expensive card. And then lastly, treasure cup stuff. It's all expensive. most of these cards are, I don't think any of these cards are being given out for any events anymore. So it makes sense that they've got a pretty hefty price tag. This video is already very long, so I'm not going to talk about pre-release stuff. Well, I'll talk about 06 pre-release stuff. How about that? For your OP06 pre-release cards, Rise Max is currently leading the pack alongside Shindri. And then a lot of your Germa stuff is just very expensive, as these are your max rarity versions of those cards. Other than that, like most of your pre-release stuff, generally speaking, these cards are pretty cheap. And then finishing things off with our starter deck, purple stuff has calmed down in price quite a bit now that mono purple Luffy is no longer a relevant part of the format. Greater Eruption is still weirdly expensive, despite the fact that this card is getting banned in June. Navy HQ is up a little bit in price because seeing some play in new variant of the Sakazuki deck. And he is coming down in price, which is a little bit surprising. I kind of figured these two prices would be flipped since this one's getting banned, and also the stage variant, generally speaking, isn't playing this card. So just something to think about there. And lastly, your yellow starter deck, your Big Mom's getting pretty expensive. Played in a lot of yellow decks right now. I think it sees less play EB01 and OP07 since you get the 10 cost ace for an L, but still a very good card, very expensive right now. 4 of in Katakuri. But that wraps things up for today's video. Still a longer video, so apologize for that, and appreciate everyone who bears with me and is enjoying the content. I know you guys have said in the past that you don't mind the longer form content, but I will try and still speed things up just a little bit in the future. But that's going to wrap things up for today's video. So thank you again for watching. I hope to see you on the next one. I think what I'm going to try and do from here on out is a market watch every other week, and then do a kind of like a meta recap of both the East and the West, look at what's doing well, just to kind of inform our decisions when we're looking at the market. But again, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please do consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel if you want to see more content like this in the future. With that, I will catch you all in the next video. Peace.